Hey everyone, Robert here, author of Expansion Mastery, the practical guide to living a fully engaged life. Are you ready to start living life to the fullest? Are you ready to transform yourself and your life from ordinary to extraordinary? Well then, let's get to it. Welcome, my friends, to the Fully Engaged Life. Welcome back to the show, everyone. In today's episode, I'd like to take a look at a meme that we are constantly bombarded with in the self-help circles, as well as various spiritual circles. And this meme has become an absolute cliche. And not that that's a bad thing. It's just become very common. And I'm going to apologize ahead of time because I don't know everybody who actually uses this, so I cannot give you credit. The credit is not mine. So I'm not going to give credit to every single person. But basically, this comes about as change your mind to change your life, right? We've seen this all over. The late, great Wayne Dyer did write a book called Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life. You know, and this idea comes about in so many forms. Change your thoughts and you change your world, change your mind and change your whole life experience. So many ways to say it, but regardless, it's referring to the same thing. If you change your mind, if you change your thoughts, you can change your reality. You can change your life experience, right? This is what it's referring to. What we hold in our mind and repeat constantly will become what we tend to experience in life. Because what we think initiates the creation of our reality, or at least our view of it, based upon mental projections and vibrational frequency. In order to get different results in life, we have to change our mental patterns. We have to change our mental habits and beliefs. And in addition, we have to raise our vibration. To work on the mind alone is not enough. We need to make sure that we have the vibrational component accompanying that. So, what does it mean? And more importantly, how do we actually do this? It's obviously a lot easier said than done because there's a lot of people saying it, and there's not very many people actually doing it, is there? See, there's a tendency to teach that if we believe something strongly enough, it has to become reality. But we know this just isn't necessarily the case, is it? Believing equates to nothing more than wishing, and we all know that old saying about wishing in one hand and yeah, you remember that, right? I don't need to say it. So we have to realize that there's more to it than that. It's not just about believing, because a belief can become simply nothing more than a delusion, not actual reality itself. And if it's a delusion, we believe it, but it's only real in our own head, and that's kind of a mental illness thing, isn't it? Right? It's not actual reality. Even though we fool ourselves into believing that we are experiencing that, it's not reality. And this is where sometimes people take a turn into left field and they start to get lost, and the mind, their view of reality becomes very, very diluted. So to make sure this doesn't happen, let's take a look at what this changing our mind in order to change our life or reality thing is really referring to here. We need to understand that our thoughts and vibrational frequency are linked. One affects the other. When we think positive, uplifting thoughts, our vibration rises. Likewise, when we're holding a high vibration, we become simply unable to think negative thoughts, to say negative things to people, or to perform negative actions. In this, we can see how each of these affects the other. A powerful spiritual path utilizes the process of accessing our mind directly in order to begin changing the negative and ridding ourselves of that which we don't need at all. It's not enough to try our best to think positively as much as possible. This just creates a greater sense of delusion, a false sense of spirituality, because you're trying to force yourself each time that you even remember to do it, and no real transformation of your mind ever takes place. Therefore, your vibration rises and falls in a constant state of uncontrolled thought and emotion that is generally likened to riding the wildest roller coaster that you can possibly imagine. So what we need is, we need something to actually cause this sort of mental transformation. We need something that will allow our mind to become transformed. It's not as easy as just thinking, right? It's the idea of thinking that has gotten us into the predicament we're in the first place. That's how we've come up with this version of reality as we see it and the experiences we're attracting onto ourselves. That may or may not be working out very well for us. So just trying to pile on more thoughts is not how you affect change this way. There's a deeper methodology that we're given in order to actually go in and make these changes to the mind so that we can then experience life differently. So I often hear people repeating this phrase and pushing it through social media, and I can't help but ask some of these people, that's a wonderful statement. What are you doing to get there? And I find that very few people understand. They think that, because I read it, and yeah, that sounds really good, that, it must be happening because I thought it. No, this simply is not the case. This is not reality. So what we want to do is understand then, how do we directly address this idea of changing our mind or our thoughts in order to change our life? All right, so consider this. If it were as simple as merely just reading that statement and thinking about it, then everyone would be happy and having the experience they desired, wouldn't they? Obviously, this is not the case. Look around you. So we're capable of changing our mind in regards to making decisions just by thinking. But this is not the same as changing your mind so that the mental formations, such as mental patterns, habits, and beliefs themselves actually change. This is a transformation that needs to happen. That's what I'm talking about here. So the ability to change these things is what all of these self-help memes about that are referring to. If we walk the spiritual path, we're offered specific practices that help us to observe and interact with the mind directly. We're able to then make the changes that are so often talked about and referred to in such memes, and it is then that we are able to raise our vibration and change our life. In order to do this, we need to peer through the illusion of the outer world as well as the delusions of our inner world. Through this, we're able to attain a state of proper perception and clear comprehension. Without this, the mind is ever enslaved to the various illusions and delusions that it wants us to believe is reality. Through these faulty perceptions, we create a faulty sense of reality, and then we experience that version of reality every day. And likewise, vibrationally speaking, we keep attracting that sort of experience to us. Many people, many gurus, teachers, whatever, teach us that we need to change our thoughts in order to change this reality, in order to have a different life. And this is essentially true. However, without attaining proper perception or clear comprehension, most end up just creating another distorted view of reality. This is why it doesn't work well for so many people. Now, most teachers just stop there by addressing nothing more than the thoughts, but that's not enough to bring about the change that they're referring to in the meme itself. Not at all. We must also change our vibrational frequency. And by change, I mean to raise it. The ability to raise and then hold that raised frequency in our vibration is crucial to making this transformation stick. It's then that we're able to hold these more positive thoughts in mind. Many of these modern New Age teachers address the idea of changing their thoughts, but they never take you beyond those thoughts into a state of no mind where there is no thought. If all reality is based on your thoughts, then what happens when you achieve a state of no mind, where there is no thought and no intention? Does the entire world just disappear? Does reality fold in on itself? No, of course not. When you achieve no mind, there are no thoughts, no intentions, and the suspension of all mental processes. You experience reality as it truly is, untainted by your thoughts, emotions, and perceptions. Now, most people don't address this because they simply can't, because they themselves have never experienced it firsthand, so they don't know what to do with it. Those who have, like Eckhart Tolle, do indeed discuss it in one way or another. But we have to start somewhere, and changing your mind is as good a place as any. So let's look at the process. What does it take? We understand what it means now. We understand that it's talking about this sort of mental transformation, but how do we get it to take place? Just chanting that meme as sort of an affirmation certainly isn't going to do it. In order to change our mind, we have to engage in practices, authentic practices that allow us to directly interact with our own mind. This is the role that mindfulness practices and meditative practices play in the process of spirituality. The function of mindfulness practices is to teach us how to observe our mental patterns that have become habitual, most of which have been formed by beliefs. Through learning how to observe them without judgment, we are then free to witness these typically elusive mental patterns. Most of these are on a mental loop, repeating again and again and again in an endless mental cycle. But because they're formed in our unconscious mind, we have little to absolutely no recognition of them. We don't even know they're happening. The mindfulness practices expose them so we can become aware that they're ever present in the background of our mind. Through this awareness of them, we are then able to bring them into the conscious mind where we can make the desired changes to them. But as long as they remain in the unconscious mind, they are lost in the shadows. We don't know they're happening. So what we're doing is we're bringing them forward. We're bringing them into the light. We're bringing the unconscious and making it conscious. This is the function of these practices. So in the beginning, for instance, we can then, through the direct interaction with our own mind, we can begin replacing negative chatter within these patterns with more positive and beneficial ideas that will then become the chatter in our unconscious mind. And that's what they're referring to when they say change your mind. Now, these practices actually go further than that to take us to a place where we just simply don't have this chatter, positive or negative, going on all the time in our mind anymore. But we'll get to that in a moment. We have to first take a look at why it is so incredibly challenging for people to change this negative mental chatter pattern into one that's positive. And the reason is that for most people, it's because that their mental patterns have been formed from their beliefs. And let's face it, most people are simply unwilling to change their beliefs. This is why beliefs are forms of mental poison. especially what we call concrete beliefs. When I believe something so strongly, so resolutely, that I am unwilling to consider anything else, any change to it whatsoever, that's a problem, right? Once the ordinary mind forms an opinion about something, whether that opinion is based upon fact or complete fabrication, it begins forming a belief around it. And then it becomes part of your background chatter. You see, the mind enjoys tricking you into believing that you know something in order to keep you feeling safe and happy with the world around you. It's called a comfort zone. This is why we often hear another meme, which is don't believe everything you think. That's a very important one. That kind of needs to go along with the change your thoughts or change your mind, change your life, right? In order to do so, you have to stop believing everything you're thinking, because the mind works to deceive us in so many ways. And just look at the illusion of separation as a prime example. I mean, come on. All you have to do is look around at some of the absolutely outrageously absurd things people are capable of convincing themselves to believe in. Most often, these beliefs were formed from completely faulty perception, unclear comprehension, or just the mind's need to create an even greater sense of comfort for their comfort zone. That's why a person's beliefs are often something they're unwilling to even conceive of changing, let alone dropping altogether. And many people are willing to sacrifice their life for that belief. Whether it's based in reality or delusion, they don't even care. They would surrender their life for that belief. See why it's a mental poison? See the power that it holds over you? And then, once the belief has been formed, they think about it, they talk about it, and they'll even seek out forms of validation for it. This creates habitual thinking centered around that belief. This then, in turn, creates a mental pattern that plays continuously in the back of your mind all day, every day. But since it's playing in the background of the unconscious mind, you're just not aware that it's even going on. Now, mindfulness practices, as well as meditative practices, help us to actively observe and directly interact with our own mind and the mental patterns of the unconscious mind so that we can work with them. Maybe we choose to alter the tone of the pattern, changing it from negative to positive. We can do that. Maybe we choose to simply dissolve the pattern altogether once we see that it's just not serving us in any real or beneficial manner. We can do that too. However, you will find that this requires letting go of the beliefs that cause them to become mental patterns in the first place. That's the sticky point. But this is why in the Expansion Mastery Program, I focus on changing your concrete beliefs into a state of fluidity. What I call fluid beliefs are those that we choose to embrace in the moment based upon as much knowledge and experience as we happen to have at that particular moment in time, while remaining perfectly open to changing how we view those beliefs or the belief entirely as we change, grow, learn, and develop things such as clear comprehension. After this, letting go of the mind's need to form a belief at all is something that we let go of. And through this, we're able to attain true wisdom. This is kind of the path. Mindfulness and meditative practices are essential to teaching us how to observe and interact with the mind and its processes. They help us to bring the unconscious mental patterns and habits and mental processes into the conscious, where we can then work with them, we can address them, or we can simply let them go. So that's the idea. Mindfulness and meditative practices are what we use to bring about the change in the mind that they're talking about. Now, if we take just a moment to take a look at meditation itself, we can clearly see the difference between the mindfulness practices, meditative practices, and meditation itself. Because meditation is the suspension of these mental processes altogether as we go beyond the mind. We transcend the mind itself. In meditation, we achieve a state of no mind. And it is only here that we can know and interact with the present moment as it unfolds. You see, this is the process, this is the path that I've been sharing with you for years now. It begins with mindfulness practices and meditative practices. Why? Because it is through those practices that we personally and directly engage the mind, and we make the necessary changes to the mind. The changes that are being spoken of with the meme, change your thoughts or change your mind and change your life experience, right? So those are the things that help us get there. So we change our mind, we discipline our mind, we start to enjoy life much more, right? This is why this is a path to living a fully engaged life. But then we go further and we go into meditation so we can achieve no mind. See, in no mind, we aren't doing anything with the mind. That was the function of mindfulness and meditative practices. Meditation itself is not dealing with the mind. It's not doing anything with the mind. It's a stillness of mind. Silence. It transcends the mind. It goes beyond the mind. This is when things get spiritual. See, it's the mind that clings to things like the past and the future. The mind needs the past and the future. That's how it validates itself. But when you're in no mind, there is no mind to cling to the past or future. And because of that, you become free. You become free of these mental chains and the mental poisons of belief, free from the mental processes, patterns, habits, and most of all, the ego. It's here, in this space of no mind, that you experience real freedom. This is where you come to experience true spirituality, along with your true self. This is when you experience actual true reality as it is, because you are also in a state of simply being. This is when we see what reality is instead of the reality we're trying to create or the reality we're mistakenly, unconsciously creating all the time, because there's an underlying sense of actual reality that has nothing to do with the mind at all. And the only way you can come to know it is through attaining no mind, by going beyond the mind altogether. And then you are not trying for anything. You are in a state of utter acceptance. You are in a state of joy and appreciation and love, and your vibration is high. Why? Because we've become free of the mind altogether. And we have reconnected. We have remembered our true self. See, so it's good to start with changing our mind. But as we continue on the spiritual path, we end up seeking a sense of losing our mind, right? So at some point, we don't want to change it. We just want to lose it. We want to let it go. Okay? So we want to just be free of it. So we go outside the mind altogether because that's the only way to know real reality and happiness. So understand that the notion of changing our mind to change our experience is not the end-all, be-all. It's the place we start. We start with the mind because that's usually where the problems start. So we start there and we work on that. And once we have addressed the mind, we've interacted with it, and we've made the certain changes or transformations, then we can transcend it altogether. This is what that meme is referring to. It's not a complete statement. It's only a partial. It's just giving you the beginning of the path. And it would be something more like, change your mind, then let go of your mind in order to experience real life. So let's use appreciation as an example of this process. So in order to change our mind, what we are looking to do is change some of these mental processes. So we would use mindfulness practices in order to observe what the mind is doing and then begin to understand the falseness of it. Start to develop clear comprehension and pure perception. And at that point, we would start to pull the negative patterns to the forefront so we could see them, and we would start to replace the negative with appreciation. So instead of complaining about things all the time, we appreciate what we do have. Instead of dwelling on what we don't, we appreciate what we do. Instead of gossiping and complaining about people, we express a sense of appreciation for them. This sort of thing. So we start to use appreciation as a way to change our thoughts, change our mind. And as our mind changes, our vibration rises. And then as we hold that raised vibration, it makes it very easy for the mind to remain focused on appreciation. It won't be able to go back to the old habits if you're able to hold that high vibration, that good feeling. That's the idea. And this is how we address it. And then we start to live in this space of appreciation. And let me tell you, when you're able to do that, you can't help but live a fully engaged life, because you are so appreciative of everything and you see the magic in everything, and it's incredible. And you're able to just hold this deep sense of appreciation. And in turn, that has your heart opened, it has your vibration high, all of that. And from that space, when you are feeling that way, there's this sense of tranquility. And it's from there, that type of platform that gives you easy access to successfully meditate. And the meditation takes us completely beyond the mind and connects us to spirit, our true self. And it's there that we're able to realize even higher levels of vibrational frequency, because that frequency is equal to love and joy and appreciation, you see? And then we're able to hold that all the time. That becomes who we are, because that is in reality who we are. When the mind is out of the way, that is who we are. It is the mind that corrupts. See, there's that old philosophical question, are human beings inherently good or evil? We're inherently good. The spirit, our source, our soul, whatever you want to call it, that is good. That is an extremely high vibrating conscious energy. It's eternal. That's what it is. That's what we are. And we can only vibrate at that level of pure unconditional love, appreciation, and joy. It is the mind that pulls that down, that puts us into a negative state. And it is the mind that brings about things like evil, unhappiness, delusion, all of those things. See, you get the whole picture now? So this is why we want to look at the actual processes to back this stuff up. It's one thing to have a lot of philosophy about the meme, but that doesn't do you any good. You have to know what to do to actually unlock the power of that meme, to engage it directly. Unless you're having a direct experience with it, nothing's going to happen. You have to make the transformation. Then you can enjoy the benefits. And then you're living a fully engaged life. Appreciation is one of the easiest things to use with this. And if you want a system, if you want an authentic practice to begin doing this to help you change your thoughts, change your mind so you can change the life you're experiencing, just go to www.expansionmastery.com and grab the Appreciation Mastery Program. Instantly, you'll be able to start using it. It's an incredible program that allows you access and use immediately. And as you begin practicing this, it is the practice that will allow you to attain mindfulness, and it will allow you to then have meditative practices to begin using this. You will develop it. You'll go through the transformation. This is one of the most powerful ways to do that, to begin doing that, and you will change. Your life will change. And then from there, if you choose to go deeper into actual meditation, you'll be in a very good place to do so. So do yourself a favor, jump over to www.expansionmastery.com, pick up your copy of the Appreciation Mastery Program. You can also pick up a signed copy of Appreciation Mastery for a mere $5. Go to the website for all the details on how to get that 75% discount when you check out. And in the meantime, please make sure and share this material everywhere you can, with everyone you can. Let's get authentic spirituality out there. Let's help this consciousness shift keep going. It's picking up momentum, people. I don't know if you're capable of feeling it or seeing it or sensing it, but I am. And I'm seeing the tides turning. I'm seeing this start to pick up. People are awakening. This will help them. Let's make sure that we help everyone we possibly can to awaken and make this a tidal wave, a tsunami of conscious awakening. Until next time, my friends, I wish you the very best in your practices and, of course, in your life. Take care.